Hi, it's Monday. That one, this camera over here. We got a great guest for you today. Not just a locally known, but a nationally known guest. That's right. From the New York Islanders TV broadcast. And I'm looking at Sam, but they can't tell. The NHL on TNT. Brendan Burke will be joining us to talk about the Islanders. Luds is here from Wisconsin, but we don't know if technically it'll work because, we had some pre-show issues. Sam is here. Elijah's here. Let's get it started right now here on DLLS.
Get ready, boys.
It is Monday, August 11th. This is the DLLS Stars Podcast. Welcome back. I hope you had a nice weekend. Alongside Sam Nessler, I'm Owen Newkirk. Our producer, Elijah Smith, is at the controls. And thankfully, even though technical difficulties were abound before we went live, Craig Ludwig is here from Wisconsin. And so too is our esteemed guest of honor, Brendan Burke, from the New York Islanders and the NHL on TNT.
Yes.
They both have Islanders connections, although Berkey's been there a lot longer than Luds was on the island. You should have
He's
seen
having
the
more
filter.
success there. Hey, he's having more success there than I did too.
Yeah, well, wait till you tell him about the
enjoy
broadcast booth.
This is going to be my 10th year, Owen. You believe that?
Oh, my God. Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
How about
Yeah,
that?
well, that would make sense. Before we get into the Islanders details, I'm glad you brought that up, Brendan, because I had to look this up. I met Brendan on a Sunday at the Peoria Civic Center.
What were you wearing?
Probably a suit.
Okay.
Actually, I'm
I'm
positive
trying to
it
get
was a
myself
suit.
in the moment.
So I had to go back and look at this. December 2nd, 2012, Brendan.
Oof.
The Texas Stars beat the Peoria Rivermen on a Sunday matinee. I think it was a 5 o'clock game. We played in Rockford, I think, or Chicago the night before. You think I looked that part up? I didn't. But we drove down to Peoria. I'd never been there. We got there in the middle of the night. I helped unload the bags with the equipment guys while the players were sleeping. Got a few hours sleep, got up, went to the Civic Center for the first time, and thanks to 2 third-period goals and then a shootout win, Texas beat Peoria 4-3. And I wanted to share this with you because that's where I first met you. Jake Allen versus Christopher Nilstorp. Backup goalies were Jack Campbell and Mike McKenna. And the Rivermen featured such greats as Ian Cole, TJ Hensick, everybody's favorite former Dallas Star Adam Cracknell, Taylor Chorney on the blue line had a couple assists. Jaden Schwartz was on the team. Your captain was Scott Ford. Listen to the Texas lineup. Brendan Dillon, Jamie Alexiak, Colton Sevier, who had 30 goals that year,
Remember?
Jordy Ben, Patrick Nemeth, Scott Glennie, Vinny, Thomas Vinsor, Max Fortunas. Now Texas Stars head coach Toby Peterson was the assistant captain in the game. Cody Eakin, the short run of Cam Barker with Texas, Travis Morin, Matt Frazier, Antoine Roussel, Riley Smith, Alex Chason, Luke Gazdick, and Francis Wathier. Holy cow. You said you're going into your 10th year, Brendan, for the Islanders. That was what? Almost 13 years ago now.
Yeah, and I started in Peoria in 08. 08-09 was my first year in the American League. And there's still a few guys. You mentioned there's still a few guys kicking around. Jake Allen, Ben Bishop was around for a while, which you guys know about. Ian Cole, Jaden Schwartz, those guys, Ryan Reeves, those are the only guys still left kicking around from those days, but there's still a few.
It was a lot of fun. I think we were talking with Molly Walker last week when we did last week or week. I don't even remember what day it was now.
This summer.
And she was talking about how great the press box food is at Little Caesars in Detroit, and it jogged my memory of one of the things I was most upset about going to Peoria was I just got a concession stand coupon on a Sunday. It wasn't like a lavish spread. You just never knew in the minors.
Corn dog bites were good. Corn dog bites were good. That was the go-to.
All right,
Trust me, I was disappointed in it too, but that was my home rink. I had to do that 40 times a year.
You knew it. You knew every nook and cranny of that. Let's talk about the Islanders. You go ahead and lead it off here with Brendan.
Whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, or tees.
Nope.
Oh, is it not time for our first
yet,
read already?
not 15 yet.
Going into commercial break already. Hey, Brendan, just to start, can you sense any kind of a change in atmosphere or anything going on there now that Lou has kind of decided to step a little bit away, and Mathieu Darche is taking over, or is it just same old business as of now that you feel?
No, it's definitely a different feeling right now on Long Island. I think a big part of it was under Lou, there wasn't a clear direction, or at least a clear direction that was dictated to the fans. I think everybody was kind of left just guessing what the plan is and where this organization is going. And you're looking at a lot of these older players and long-term contracts, and you couldn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then everything changed with one little lottery ball popping up, number 13, and gave the Islanders the number 1 overall pick. A new GM was in the works at that point. You knew the new GM was going to have the number 1 pick, and then it's kind of snowballed from there to where now there's an influx of some youth, some junior players, some of these prospects, and you can start to see where the era that is currently coming to an end is going to meet the next era of the New York Islanders. So I think that that's more of an apparent thing at this point. And I think that's cause for a lot of people to be at least optimistic or excited to see where this is going to play out.
I'm going to go right off that. You just mentioned that little lottery ball. As much as that decentralized draft sucked the life out of all of us watching it, the bright spot was obviously Matthew Schaefer for the Islanders. Just what is he going to be? And now he's signed the deal. Is he going to be an immediate impact on that team?
I think that's the hope. I don't think it's a necessity, to be honest. I don't think that they need him to come in and be an all-star year one. Obviously, they would love that and love that to be the plan, but I don't think that's going to be the difference between the Islanders making the playoffs, missing the playoffs, winning a Stanley Cup. I don't think that that's going to be where they need him to be as a – I mean, he hasn't even turned 18 yet. He's still 17 for the moment. So that's a lot of pressure to put on a young kid. But I think the idea is, and we've seen it, the evolution of the game, those game changers from the back end are so important and extremely hard to find, and the Islanders think they have one of those. And whether it takes him a year or two to get to that level or whether he can do it from day one, they believe he's going to get there. And when he does, that's going to be a huge get for the New York Islanders to have somebody that can be a game breaker. You don't want to say Cale Makar, but you want somebody like every team wants that, right? Like every team wants to have that guy, a Heiskanen, that you can have to be a game breaker from the back end. And the Islanders have not had that in a very long time, and hopefully they have one now. So that's going to be a big impact for him. And whether or not that happens now, I don't know. I mean, they have that buffer. You can try him out for 9 games. I'd be shocked if they didn't at least see 9 games from him. And the hope is that he looks good in those 9 games, and he's going to be a big part of this team all season.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Noah Dobson, but does that departure at all push this a little bit with Schaefer? Does it maybe put a little more pressure on speeding things up a little bit?
I think look at it from the opposite way. I think it opens up an opportunity for him, right? Like there's one fewer one-way NHL contract blocking him on the back end.
Yep.
So I don't know if it means that he speeds up, but I think it gives him the opportunity, a better opportunity to win a roster spot out of training camp. So obviously a Noah Dobson replacement, perhaps. But at the end of the day, I think it definitely increases his chances of making this team by Dobson not being here anymore.
Well, since you guys both brought it up, I might as well go to the Dobson question. And obviously, a lot of people think that this kid has really big high-end ceilings, but is it just as simple as salary cap for why they were willing to move on? Because, there are a bunch of teams, and we were talking about it in Dallas, if they could ever find a way to make it work, that would sort of solve their right-handed problem, we think, for a good chunk of years, if not a decade. So why do you think, Brendan, that the Islanders were willing to cut ties with Dobson?
Salary was a part of it, I'm sure. $10.5 million, that is now the highest paid player on the Montreal Canadiens. Dobson's a good player, but Nick Suzuki might be better.
Yeah.
Cole Caulfield might be better. Lane Hudson might be better. I mean, it's just $10.5 million is a lot of money. So the Islanders are going, hey, does this make sense for our organization? If that's the price that we need to pay for Noah Dobson, does that make sense? And I think they came to the idea that maybe we could get more, and they got 2 first-round picks for him. But at the end of the day, he had a 70-point season 2 years ago. He took a major step back offensively this season. And the problem is he's a defenseman. It's not all about points. And I think the defending just wasn't there. And if you're going to pay a guy $10.5 million, I would assume that you want him to quarterback your power play. Noah Dobson is not a power play quarterback. That's not. They tried to make it work. That's not his skill set. The Islanders had the worst power play in the National Hockey League, basically back-to-back years. That's just not his game. Now, he doesn't have to be the number 1 power play quarterback in Montreal because they have Lane Hudson. So there's a different type of dynamic there. But for the Islanders, just the price you would have to pay for the player that you're getting there, I think, and especially for where they are right now, I think 2 first-round draft picks and a player. They got Emil Heineman out of it too. You get 2 first-round draft picks, a third or fourth line forward, and you don't have to spend $10.5 million on a salary cap strap team at this point in their building process. So I think that was a good move for them to not handcuff themselves with another big contract at this point.
Brendan, do you feel that Dobson has the ability to be a shutdown kind of defenseman, that can go out and play against other teams' top lines, or that's not there either to the standard of, I always use Pietrangelo, guys like that. Is he at that? Can he be that kind of guy?
Does he have the ability? Maybe, but he doesn't have it right now. I mean, somebody would have to teach him to do that. He is not a number 1 shutdown defenseman. I mean, by any stretch. So, he's a good player. Trust me, that Noah Dobson's a good hockey player. But to think you're getting, and I keep going back to a $10.5 million, you're getting a $10.5 million defenseman, you're going to want him to be that guy. And right now he's not that guy. Maybe Martin St. Louis can make him that guy, or somebody else in the Canadiens can make him that guy. But right now he's not that guy.
Yeah, earlier when the first question I asked you, you brought up the word era. Does the current head coach fit into that new era?
This year he does.
Yeah, that's my question.
I mean, it's a great question. I think again, we're talking about opportunities.
There
I
you
think
go with the
right
great
now,
questions. That's all we ask.
He's going to be. That's why you're here, Luds. He's going to be judged on this year. I don't think that they're going to hold anything previously against him. I think Mathieu Darche is going to judge Patrick Roy on this season and how he believes it's working and how it fits. And so they can move on, and Patrick Roy and again, Patrick Roy under Lou Lamoriello might be a different coach than Patrick Roy under Mathieu Darche. We will find out. I think that's the great question. So that is part of the excitement is what do the Islanders look like? Are they coached any differently, or is it just the same guys with more facial hair?
Love it. We're going to get more into this, but we have to go to a quick ad break. And Luds, now's the time to show Brendan what you got. So
wait.
Let's do it next here on DLLS.
As I said earlier, whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, or tees, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. Looking for some gear to make your brand stand and strand out apart from the crowd? I have some that they might want to take this line up right here. This is a little Packer color going on here, little Hams beer up in Wisconsin. Well, Branded Bills has the best custom hardware. This was made by a little old lady that I met at the lake the other day. Start your order, and their dedicated team will help you create an exact custom apparel you're looking for. They have a partnership with 40 colleges as a part of their campus collection, including TCU, Texas Tech, and Texas. Head to brandedbills.com, and now here's the code again. Owen, take notes. It's BBDLLS. That's for 15% off your first order. Last time you wanted to know, and Sam's paying attention to, BBDLLS. And this probably will be in the product line next time you check in.
What is that?
I hope you get some royalties for that, Luds, because that's a fantastic hat.
Free hams.
Am I supposed to read something now?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't ready.
I got it. That's all right. Don't worry about it, Sam. Luds,
We're going
unlike
to Las
Sam,
Vegas.
I'm prepared to talk about Empire today because he didn't look at the text message, the Google Doc, or when I asked him, forget about it. So while Luds was telling you about Brendan Bills, I'm going to tell you about Empire Today. Just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Look, you've seen the tiny little spots here, but the various hardwood areas of our lounge, they did other areas of our whole office, but you can't see those on camera. They're really well done. Plus, what is Empire Today? They do nothing but flooring, so you don't have to go to those big box stores. You don't have to mess around with trying to find all the different spots installers. They will help you. They can do it from your home, get precise measurements. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using code DLLS. That's right, a $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit Empire Today/DLLS for full details. Let's bring Berkey back in. Sam,
my bad.
Are you ready now? Because you weren't ready before. Are you ready for him now, or do you want me to go?
You go.
Okay. Brendan, I want to talk about Russian forwards for a second. As we were looking through your roster, I know Maxim Siplikov had a really nice introduction to the North American game and NHL, and yet there's this other guy. I haven't seen him yet, but hearing good things out of the KHL named Maxim Shabanov. I may be saying it wrong, but I will defer to your pronunciation. That there may be another little piece added to your lineup. What say you on Siplikov's year and then this other KHL import?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Romanov, Varlamov, Shabanov. Sounds right. I'm just going off the rest of the Russians on the roster. So, but with Siplikov, Siplikov was interesting. He had a decent year if you judge him off of his season and not the expectations coming in. He scored 30 goals in the KHL. Was, I think, fourth in the league in the KHL 2 years ago. And so if your expectation was this guy's going to come in and score 30 goals in the NHL, he had a disappointing year. But if you judge him for, he's a middle six forward, he can put in some good minutes, he's a big body, likes to go to the net, he can play in the National Hockey League. There's no question about it. So I think that maybe the expectations kind of soured Islander fans on him early in the season because he didn't turn into what the hype was, I guess. So maybe that's a cautionary tale for the new Maxim Shabanov, who is young. He's 24 years old. He's a left shot. He's undersized from what I understand. But again, flashy numbers in the KHL. There were a lot of potential suitors, just like Siplikov, to bring him over and play in the National Hockey League, which I think that means something is good if you're competing against other NHL teams and you're winning, and perhaps the aforementioned Abanovs that are on the Islanders already had something to do with that. You want a culture for some of these players, and you have, like I said, Semyon Varlamov, who was hurt almost all of last season, is still on the roster. You've got Alex Romanov, who's going to be here for a long time, and he's a good, strong, young defenseman. So you have Sorokin. He doesn't fit with the rhyming scheme, but you have a group of Russians here that can make a Russian player feel at home. So you hope that part of it is an easier transition because, you guys know, you bring in players from a different country, from a different lifestyle, from a different league. There's a lot of things off the ice that are adjusting. Even for the younger guys that speak English and live in this culture, it can be an adjustment period, getting your life together off the ice. And so you put that on a 24-year-old kid coming to North America for the first time, that can be tough to balance with what you're doing on the ice. And so if you make it a little bit easier for him with a group of Russians that can help him along with that side of it, you hope that he can get up to speed and compete for a roster spot right away on day one.
And the follow-up on that is that I look at your depth chart for the Islanders' center depth. The spine is great. I really think Horvat, Barzal, Pajot, and Cizikas, that is a really, 1 through 4, you're not showing a lot of holes or gaps there at all. The question to me is, how do you feel about the pieces you plug in on the wings of those 4 lines?
Yeah, I guess the first question is if is that at your 4 centers? Because with Matt Barzal, they've been moving to the wing a lot and playing with Bo Horvat. Now, Barzal missed most of last season with 2 different injuries. And of course, the one name missing, if you wanted to go down the center depth, last year was stronger. They had Brock Nelson as the second line center. So you had Horvat, Nelson, Pajot, and Cizikas, which was pretty strong as well. But that wasn't to solve all their problems. Now they bring in Jonathan Drouin to play wing. And so perhaps that enables them to move Barzal to a second line center position. Perhaps they load up that top line, and Horvat and Barzal have shown chemistry when they've been able to stay healthy together and be on the ice together. They have Kyle Palmieri and Anders Lee on the wing, so there are other options there. So it'll be really interesting. I do think there are some questions to be answered in training camp and we'll probably get the answers pretty early, about what Patrick Roy is thinking about where these players are all going to line up. Because, Matt Barzal is a natural center and played center his whole career until they brought in Bo Horvat, because it had been for so long. It was funny. It went from they need to find a big-time winger to play with John Tavares. And then Tavares left, and they had Matt Barzal, and then they needed to find a big-time wing to play with Matt Barzal. And then they brought in Bo Horvat, and all of a sudden Matt Barzal was the wing to play with Matt Barzal, and Bo Horvat became the center. Right? So it's kind of gone through this cycle of, can they find a top-line winger to play with the top-line center? Are they thinking Matt Barzal is that guy? Or are they hoping Anthony Duclair can come back and make an impact like a top-line center? Jonathan Drouin, who has some success playing with high-end players like a Nathan MacKinnon, can come in and have some success alongside one of those two guys. Maybe both of them on either line can come in and do that. So you have two number one lines. You got Barzal centering one and Horvat centering one, and whoever's going that night is your number one line, get a little more ice time. So I think there are some options with how this group of forwards aligns, and that'll be what Patrick Roy kind of shows his hand when training camp starts about where he's putting some of these guys.
Brendan, I want to take a step back real quick. This team is not far away, 4 or 5 years away from when they were right there. Right? It felt kind of like this Dallas team where they were right on the edge. I think they went to 2 straight Eastern Conference Finals. The year before that, I believe they lost in the second round. They had 1, maybe 2 of the best goalies in the NHL. A lot of things were going right. And then since then, it's kind of been either first-round exits or missing the playoffs. I'm just curious on an overall perspective. You just said there's going to be questions, and that's what's the case with any team. But where is this team? What's their ceiling? What's their potential this coming season, looking back at how the success they've had, maybe 4 or 5 years ago? Yeah,
it's a good question. I think they're probably the same they were last year. They're going to be a team fighting for their wild card lives come April. I think that's the way that they are aligned to be right now. Again, to think this is not a transitional period, I think that you would have to classify it as that. This is not a tear it down to the studs, rebuild it. They are trying to shift it to a younger group of players. We're talking about Matthew Schaefer, but he's not the only guy they got in the first round. They got 2 other first-round picks who I don't think are going to be on the roster this year, but they're coming. They've got a first-round pick last year that's got a lot of buzz in Cole Yzerman. They got a first-round pick, a high first-round pick in Cal Ritchie that they got from Brock Nelson in the Colorado Avalanche trade that could fight for a roster spot this year. So there are some younger guys that are coming up that can hopefully move things along. But I think at the same time, this is a team that is very much in flux right now, and there are older players. You've got a 35-year-old Anders Lee as your captain. You've got Kyle Palmieri at 34 years old. You've got even Jonathan Drouin, they brought in, is 30. Cizikas is 34. He's been in the league for 16 years. Pollock and Pelech are 30. Mayfield's 32. So you've got this older group of players where I think if you look at it, go, okay, you don't want to be one of the older teams in the league. And I think that's where they've been. So I think they're trying to find a way to kind of bring up some of these young players. They have not developed a lot of young players. And part of that is, I talk about all the first-round picks and the guys they have in the system now. They traded a first-round pick for Bo Horvat. They traded a first-round pick for J.G. Pageau. They traded a first-round pick for Alex Romanov. They traded a first-round pick for who else am I missing? I mean, they've traded away. They didn't have a first-round pick from 2019 to 2024. Ooh. So you're going to pay the price for that. And that's the years that they went to back-to-back conference finals, right? You're going for, when you go for it every year, at some point you got to pay the piper. And so they went through that period where you're going, okay, Bridgeport was one of the worst teams in the American Hockey League last year. Aside from Isaiah George kind of coming up and showing he can play on an emergency basis and maybe could help defensively down the line a little bit, they didn't have a whole lot of promise from the players in Bridgeport. Now they're going to have a whole new coaching staff in Bridgeport. They're going to have some higher end players, you'd imagine, and some higher draft picks being infused and developed, but they got to develop some young players. And I think that's important for this team moving forward because they're going to need to have younger players not just make an appearance on the roster, make an impact for this roster moving forward.
Hey, Brendan, you mentioned Jonathan Drouin a couple times, and the lineup that I saw as far as the club goes, they've got him as a top left winger on that top line. can he fill that role, or is that just a statement made about who the left wingers are on this club right now?
I mean, I think he has the potential to be that guy. I think they'd like him to be that guy. Again, last year we were having the same conversation about Anthony Duclair, right? And you have those guys where you're signing a guy who has had success, enough production to be a top line winger, but hasn't done it consistently, right? And so you're hoping you can get that out of him. It's a 2-year deal. He's 30 years old. You like I said, if you're lining him up with Horvat and Barzal, or you're lining up with Horvat or Barzal, the hope is that a player like that can bring the best out of him. And, they tried him. I think I did opening night for the Avalanche last year for TNT, and they had him and McKinnon playing together, right? They played together in junior. They tried to make it work. He kind of settled in as that second line winger in Colorado. But I think that the Islanders wouldn't be the first team to assume that potential is there to be a top line winger. And so I'd be surprised if they didn't at least try to get that out of him.
Hey, to me, it sounds like the biggest addition, off-season addition, may be a guy by the name of Jason Berger. I mean, am I wrong when I read something where Patrick said, we need this guy? Do you guys know who Jason Berger is, by the way, in there?
I don't know anything about this guy.
Nope.
You? Oh, Luds.
Brendan, why don't you tell him about Jason Berger?
I wouldn't dare step on your toes. You tell us all about Jason Berger.
Well, he's a trainer. He's a trainer that was in Tampa Bay. And it was apparently he was an assistant trainer in Tampa Bay, is what I hear. And so Patrick said, we need this guy because he's full of energy. So
yeah, well, I mean, so much of the Islanders' and again, the Islanders, we're talking about them having problems. The Islanders just missed the playoffs, right? They were a team that was in it somewhat till the end, and didn't have Matt Barzal for the whole season. I mean, so injuries played a big part. They didn't have Anthony Duclair, who went down in his first game and missed months and months and months and never really returned to what they were hoping to get out of him. It seemed like every time at one point, and people that don't follow the Islanders maybe not know or even forget this, at one point they had lost their entire left side of their defense, and then a few months later had lost the entire right side of the defense at the same time. Like which
is unreal.
They were 8, 9, 10 on their defensive depth chart in the NHL lineup. They were calling up players from Bridgeport, and we are going, who are these guys, right? And so the fact that they went through all of that and they were still in the conversation at the trade deadline, it was, are they adding? Are they subtracting? They want to keep Palmieri. They traded Nelson. They were trying to still make a push to make the playoffs. So, staying healthy would be huge for the Islanders. They are not a deep enough team at this point to have major pieces go down and just next man up pop in. It's a lovely thing for coaches to say, next man up, big opportunity when Matt Barzal goes down. No, you need your big guys to stay healthy and contribute. And I think that's kind of a point he's making by saying we need a trainer here, is a guy that can come in and make sure that these guys are healthy and on the ice. Because as we often know, your best ability is availability. And so the Islanders certainly need that.
Amazingly, we're almost out of time already. I told you it was going to go by fast. I hope it has been as fast for you, Brendan, as it has been for us. But before we get done here,
for 7 minutes.
That's true. Let's talk about the Stars and how you see them. You have an interesting perspective because unlike most of our guests through this summer series we're doing, you see them more than just once or twice a year, or 3 or 4 times if you're in division, because of your duties with TNT on the national basis. So you maybe, whether it's in the regular season or the playoffs, have a little bit more exposure than our typical beat writer or team broadcaster because of your, what we'll call it your side hustle. But tell me what you see from the Dallas Stars heading into the 25-26 season.
I mean, I see a team that's right there. I mean, and they've been right there. And I'll tell you, you guys tell me the year. I did the playoff series where Jake Ottinger stood on his head, right? Was that against Calgary
22.
in 20?
Yeah, 22.
I did that series, and that was my first time going, oh, okay, they've got something here. And ever since then, I've kind of been a believer in the Dallas Stars, because when you have a goalie like that, anything can happen. Right. And so he'll keep you in games that you don't belong in. He'll win you games you shouldn't win. He can carry you on his back in a playoff series. I've been a Jake Ottinger fan since that series. That was incredible. So to me, all the pieces are there. And I think if anybody is lobbying for a new playoff format, it's probably the Dallas Stars, right? I think that the biggest hurdle for the Dallas Stars is the teams they have to play to get to the finish line, right? And you look at the job that they've done there, and you go, all right, it looks good. It looks good on paper, right? And you're going, where are the holes? It's a good team, and I don't see any reason why they won't be competing. I guess my biggest question was, why does anybody want to get rid of Jason Robertson? Right? Like that.
I know.
It's a theme here.
The buzz around that, I'm going, yeah, kind of what you guys are saying with Noah Dobson. If we can make it work, I'm like, anybody sign up for Jason Robertson for sure at this point. I mean, if you guys are willing to part with Jason Robertson, there are 31 other teams that are waiting there for you.
Yeah, I don't think you go against talent there. I know that the ask is probably going to be really high with this next deal, but they still have control. And I'm with you. We've had this conversation like 30 times. It just makes no sense. They did make a little bit of business of a guy you've probably seen a lot in the Tri-City area or Tri-State area because of the fact that you guys play the Devils in your division so often. So even though you're not a Devils broadcaster, what do you know about Nathan Bastian and what can he bring the Dallas Stars?
Physicality first. I mean, he's a big body and he can throw it around. He's not scared to drop the gloves if he needs to. But I mean, he's a guy that you tend to notice on most shifts in a good way, and not necessarily because he's got the puck, right? Like he's a guy that's going to go out there and throw his weight around and be physical, and he's got some skill, right? He's not a guy that is only out there to do that. But for a league minimum contract, right? Something like that, right? He's going to be a guy that can play in your bottom six, and if you need to, probably play up the lineup a little bit, right? He's a second round pick, so he's had some chances to play top 6 minutes probably. I think he's more of a middle six type of guy, and certainly on your roster, a middle to bottom six forward, but can certainly make an impact physically at least. And I don't know if they had him killing penalties or not, but he's a guy that can, he can skate, he can move, and he can throw his body around. He's not going to score. I was going to say 20, but he probably won't score 10. But he can play.
Hey, Luds, before we sign off with Brendan, you've told me this story a couple of times. I don't know if you'd like to share what details of how you tried to influence his broadcast perch location at the new building in Elmont at UBS Arena, because Luds has got some connections with your ownership. And there was a point, you tell it better than I can, but about trying to maybe mimic what Dallas has for the TV broadcasters at least.
Yeah, there was one of the guys, Brendan, that when I got there, they brought me in there to kind of talk about some things and everything that was going on the island. And I have friends that are part of it, the organization. So anyway, one thing, they said, well, anything you can add in here? And I said, well, the best thing that I hear about is from Razor and those guys is where they broadcast from. And I said, where's your broadcast booth going to be? And they kind of pointed, and I said, man, I'm telling you. So they had me go back and take all these. I had to have somebody go in there and take a bunch of pictures where, Razor and those guys are all doing their broadcast. Apparently that didn't take shape.
It's up there.
Trust me, they were well aware of where we wanted to be. Because we have conversations about it, but we got one of those hard hat tours in the new building, and we went up to the press box, and there were phone calls made after that. And we have a home spot that's down low, and I tried to get more people down there, but we kind of retrofitted into some ADA seating where we can kind of slide into a nice spot in the dime club for the home team. So selfishly, I am well taken care of in my own building, but in defense of my own building, what they did on the island was they tried to keep some of the character that they desperately tried to of the old Coliseum. And the one thing that everybody said about the Coliseum and what made it unique is the low ceiling. They wanted the ceiling low because it feels like you're kind of closed in. And so they did that. It looks very different, but the ceiling, I believe, is within a few feet of what the Coliseum used to be in terms of where the ceiling is to the ice. And so the press box is not as high as it feels. You feel like you're in the roof because the roof is brought down, right? So it's almost like a trick of the mind where you're like, oh, I'm in the rafters, I'm so far away. But if the rafters were where they are in most other buildings, you wouldn't feel that way. So the scary thing is that I only do a handful of games from that location. And they're all playoff games because I get booted out of my own spot by the national games. So I do call playoff games up in the press box. So I do know what that call is like. And
I'll say the benefit of it was that when I was there in the press box, Razor and Josh were behind me. So I had the play-by-play from the Stars broadcasters in my ear the whole game. So that was a nice little bonus. So there are benefits.
Yep, yeah, you gotta watch what you say with all the writers sitting right in front of you during commercial.
Nothing like a play-by-play guy loves shouting over the writers when they're doing a game.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Brendan, I told you this is going to go way too fast, but seriously, it's so much fun to have you on. I've known you now, I can't believe 13 years now. It's a long time. It's a weird play-by-play thing because we always compete with each other, but we're also rooting for each other. So it's been really, really fun to see what you've done with your career. I think you're doing a tremendous job, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the show or that we know each other. But seriously, thank you for cutting out a little bit of time. I know you've got kids to deal with. It's the summer. We're trying to fill shows, but honestly, it's a thrill to have you on. Thank you very much for doing it today, man.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Brendan.
And I'm shocked my 3 kids didn't make an appearance on this show. So
Use that filter on your next podcast appearance. It was nice.
Yeah, can I turn it on before I leave and show everybody how handsome I am?
When he signed in, guys,
There we go.
we saw cartoon Brendan. Boy, you look sharp.
That's nice.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Brendan.
it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there he goes. Up next, we've got some Nathan Bastian talk. More from us this time on DLLS. Now it's you.
My turn.
Now it's your turn.
I wasn't ready last time.
It was your turn before, but you ignored it.
I'm ready now. And you know who else is ready? The DLS Cowboys crew, because they are headed to Las Vegas this fall for Monday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders. We're headed to Las Vegas with True Fan Travel for the ultimate fan experience. DLS is taking over the Strip for an unforgettable weekend in Vegas, and you, I'm pointing at you can't see because it's covered, but you need to be there. This all-inclusive trip includes a 3-night stay in a luxury Vegas resort, game tickets, VIP parties, exclusive events with the ridiculously funny and entertaining and also knowledgeable DLS Cowboys crew, fellow diehard fans, and much, much more. It's going to be a good time. The only thing I know about the Cowboys is that I believe they lost on Saturday to the Rams.
They lost to the Rams, yes.
To the Rams. They're not in Vegas yet, right? The Rams, they're still in Los Angeles.
They moved back to Los Angeles a few years ago, yeah. From St. Louis.
From St. Louis,
yeah,
yes.
There's a whole story about it.
Okay,
Some
yeah.
news
So
and everything.
look that up, guys, and let me know what you think. But the preseason doesn't matter. The season matters. The Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Raiders. Hopefully it goes better for our local team. Plus, we have plenty of cool stuff.
Hot Sam Cam.
Oh,
Hot
also,
Cam Sam.
this is how Dallas does Vegas. So book now at truefantravel.com. But now let's talk about some awesome merchandise on the Hot Sam Cam here. The DLS Stars crew has the best merchandise at DLS. That's pretty easy. Finnish Mafia shirt, I believe, was one of our best sellers. A very beautiful shirt. Owen's not wearing it.
No,
I was
I'm
hoping
wearing
he would.
the.
We also have the Mikko
Mike
Rantanen
Modano.
shirt, the Wyatt Johnston shirt. The finisher, I believe, is the Mikko Rantanen.
The Moose.
A bobblehead coming up for Mikko Rantanen this year.
Non sequitur.
For the Moose. That's just, this whole thing is a non sequitur. We also have plenty of awesome gear, alldls.com. You can become a diehard. You can get all the awesome gear we have. You can come to events. You can go to the Vegas. You can get everything that you possibly want, including an extra 5 seconds on this read, which we are now done with. So alldls.com. Do it up.
Luds, I'm laughing because Ardell in the chat said the LA Rams story was on after Seinfeld, suggesting why Sam didn't know anything about it. All right, let's talk about Stars. Like, I know we've been doing a lot of other teams because of the other 31 summer series, and we're going to do the Anaheim Ducks tomorrow. We've got 2 guests that I'm really excited for. The Nashville
Luds.
Predators.
Quack, quack.
Luds, you're going to miss Emma and Chris Mason. Emma Lingen, who covers the team, and Chris Mason, their TV color analyst and former NHL goalie, is going to be on Wednesday. So we're and then our Winnipeg guy, Hustler, Andrew Patterson, is in on Friday morning. We're gonna do an early show, yeah. So the other 31 is in full effect, and then next week we've got Matt DeFranks from the St. Louis Blues, our buddy. Josh Getzoff, the TV play-by-play guy for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and you can see this is still rolling. But let's talk about the Stars for a minute, because a bit of a surprise. I don't think anybody expected a free agent signing over the weekend.
Yes.
And it was
Saturday
Nathan
morning.
Bastian. So Lud sent us a great picture in the group text this morning of his reaction to the signing, which looked rather underwhelming. Kind of like
was
that
wearing that
picture
hat.
right now. No, I think he was wearing the Hams beer hat, not the PBR hat. So you have been in New Jersey and covered him a lot more. I want to give Luds a chance to say his thing, and then we want to get your really first-person experience.
Sure.
So, Luds, this comes out on Saturday. Stars have signed Nathan Bastian to a one-way contract, NHL minimum salary. But as Sean likes to say, there's a quote from Jim Nill, which there isn't a quote in the presser unless he's going to probably be on the NHL roster. So what are your first impressions about this signing?
Well, I mean, I think you're adding to the collection of third, fourth line guys that we have. I mean, are we still not going to be? I mean, again, you can't. It's hard to go and find that number 2 left winger that everybody we're talking about every time we're on the show. So, I think that what you're ultimately looking for is you're looking for a little more weight. I mean, we heard Pete DeBoer say that halfway through the season, right? He would like to be they got bigger. I went back and I watched a couple. I wanted to see, sometimes I'm always curious, a guy that's 6'4", 210 pounds, and does he just hit, or, can he fight and all this other stuff? And again, I know that's not important in today's day, but I went back and I watched a fight against Lomberg, fight against Lausanne, Rempe, Manson, Trouba. So he can hit. Brendan's exactly right. I mean, how many times did Brendan say he can hit? So that's about, it's not like he's a seasoned fighter. And he does skate well, but I think he's going to accomplish what you're going for. And, I think when I look at, in his hits for the years that he's played, 136, 210, 194, 143, 138. So now all of a sudden you've got a couple guys, Jamie Benn. I don't know where Jamie finished just above 100 hits last year. And obviously Bisser was at the top. So now you're adding a physical presence over there. And I believe is he a left shot?
I think he's a righty.
He's a righty. So that just adds a little bit more on that right side. But again, I think what you're getting is you're getting a little more pushback. That's it. But I'll tell you that what I saw, and again, doesn't mean that much, but he doesn't appear to be a guy that's fought a lot. And you know what I mean? It doesn't seem like he has the instincts. And I find every time that he got in a fight, the first thing he did is he turns his head and he received a lot of fire. So from that standpoint, I wouldn't be going out there and saying that you brought in a heavyweight when it comes to that certain element of the game. But a physical presence, he's not afraid to get dirty along the wall, and he finishes some hits in it. And frankly, obviously, when you have those kind of guys go after him, he's doing something right because he's pissing people off. So that this is a team that needs some of that.
What about you, Sam? We had a little bit because we went late on the last break.
Yeah.
A couple minutes. So, do you agree with Luds? Is it important that he have more of a fighting prowess, or is it just the physicality and as Brendan said, the skating for a guy his size?
Yeah, the big one is that what Lud said it perfectly. He's not a fighter. He's not a guy who's going to go out there and be your Reeves and drop the gloves. But what he does do is he would stand up for Rope Hintz in the playoffs. He's that guy. And that's the difference to me, is that he's not your guy that you want to go out there and fight, but he is a big step up from a lot of the people on the current roster for someone that you would want to be out there in the face of the guy who just maybe injured one of your players. He's a big guy, obviously. Lud's talked about that. He is a little bit quicker than he looks. But the key is he's exactly what you think he is, right? He just wrote about this today. He's a big physical player. He's responsible in his defensive end. He can add a goal or two here and there. As Brendan mentioned, he's a second-round pick. He's got a little bit of skill to him. But the thing that I saw from him last year is that he's kind of on that bubble. Like we should not expect him to be a top 6 guy. He was a healthy scratch for I think 6 or 7 of the last 10 games. As soon as they added a couple people at the deadline that last year, he broke his jaw. I don't remember if it was on the Rempe hit. He got hit forearm to the face by Matt Rempe. He got ejected from the game, and he broke his jaw, wore a bubble, so he fits in here already with the bubble.
Yeah, I don't want that trend to carry over into the next season.
It's already
I'd like that to be left in last season.
Yeah. But he's a guy that's going to bring more of what the Stars needed. However, the thing we know and we're just talking about is he doesn't necessarily fit anywhere specifically, right? All he kind of does is give you another bigger version of Colin Blackwell, who maybe slots in on your third, probably more likely fourth right side. He can give you a penalty killing if you need it, but the Stars have that. So to me, this is more of a, we're not sure what Arttu Huru, Justin Ritzkovian, and those guys are going to be. Let's go get someone that's proven to be this, so we know we're at least here. Then if those guys can be this, that adds to it.
Let's carry that thought over. We have to do a quick break, but I want to address what Sam just said about the guys in the AHL next here on DLLS. But first, it's my turn to show Sam how to do a 2-minute read and not be asking about the LA Rams, although we could talk about them if you really want. Let's talk about the DLLS Die Hard sale, because I believe it's still going on. Because all you have to do, so a little bit of New York in there, all you have to do is get your coffee. You go to alldls.com/intro and the website. What's that?
It's just smear.
Yeah, you smear. Get the laundry. Well, guess what? Go to alldls.com/intro. $36 for the first year, still available. Why? Because it's still Cowboys training camp. So what you do, sign up today, and you get the whole 12-month coverage from August to August. So you're thinking hockey season, regular season playoffs, all of the Mavericks NBA season, the entire Cowboys season and playoffs, and their off season, and then Rangers push for the playoffs and hopefully some October baseball over in Arlington. So you get a great deal that way. Plus, it's over 50% off the normal price. Use that QR code down by Luds. Scan that. $36 is more than 50% off. When you sign up to be a diehard, you get a lot of things, including a free t-shirt of your choice. You could pick this one. This is the Mike Modano 16-bit shirt. This is one of the originals. Sam is, once again, just wearing a shirt, not a DLS shirt. Well, I know. Bobby's upset again.
This is shirt.
It's shirt
This
number
one was
$14.99,
$14.99, though. It was a little more.
Oh, okay.
Better
so
quality.
Really, yeah, you stepped up a little bit in your game. Then you have all the other shirts you can pick from. Look at the Dallas collection. We came out a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Nolan Ryan punching Robin Ventura. That's 30 years ago now. You've got the really creepy mascot one in the middle, but that really good-looking Luds shirt that he has, the Dallas versus all y'all. Oh, yeah. The barbecue, you name it.
What's the mascot called again? What'd you call it?
It's like an amalgamation. It's a combination of a bunch of different things to mash it together. And
amalgamation.
There you have it.
You heard it here first.
Go to alldls.com/intro. Sign up today. Okay, Luds, Sam brought something up just now before the break I thought is interesting, because we've seen a history of this from Jim Nill. He does not necessarily always, if he has cap space, clear the path for prospects in the minors to make the NHL roster. He likes to go out and sign a veteran. Craig Smith, Michael Raffel. Evgeny Dodonov doesn't quite fit into that because they traded for him, but he looks for guys with, NHL history and skins on the wall, proven, even if it's depth and not top 6 or top 9 scoring. He's not going to say, hey, Justin Ritzkovian or Arttu Huru or whoever, here's the spot, take it. He's going to say, you want this spot? You got to beat out this NHL veteran for that spot.
See, here's what I think's going on. Whether it's Ritzkovian or R2D2 or, the new kid coming in or whoever it is, I think he's collecting pieces and parts. I think that I don't know if anybody that we've mentioned is going to fit in and be the guy that he wants in that number 2 hole. And I think you're going to find a way that you'll see where maybe some of these pieces are going to be part of some kind of a deal at some point during the season. And that's what I think's happening. And again, I'm not saying that, the guy that he brings in over the weekend isn't going to be a nice piece to put in there and add a little physicality to the group, which is, sorely needed in my opinion. And maybe Gully's, preaching on that kind of stuff too. He wants to be able to, what did he say? He wanted 1% more out of each player. And so, now you've got a guy that, when he gets enough minutes and gets enough games in, he's going to be over that 100 mark hit. He's on an average of 3-4 hits a game over his career. So, But I just kind of think I think there's a bigger picture here. I think there's something down the road that Jim and Janko and all these guys are saying, here's a piece that somebody's going to want. And here's a piece that, he does this, he does that. He can put the puck in the net, even if it's at the American League. They're going to want to add that to it. And maybe they go out and they find that spot that they're looking to, plug in.
And Luds, isn't it also exactly what you said? They're adding pieces, right? But isn't it possible that it's also because they understand that Sam Steele is probably going to fill that spot, at least to start? I mean, it seems like they're adding pieces to take over that third line so that Sam Steele can elevate. And then maybe you're right. Maybe that's just a temporary fix until they can find that solution long term on the left wing.
Yeah, well, that's what I think Sam is. I think legitimate number 2 wingers in the league, or I guess you can call that a 3 or 4, whatever you want, but they're not, they're making $4 or $5 million, and they're putting up 25 goals a year.
Yeah.
So I think Sam Steele's going to fit a need for a certain period of time until they find that guy, but he's not the answer. I don't think long term there. And that's what I think. I think, you can plug that hole with Sam or whoever that may be, but I just think that they're like, the guy isn't out there right now. Otherwise, maybe they'd have done that, or they're not able to pull the trigger on something right now. But give us, 2-3 months and see what we can put together, and let's do our groundwork and get some feelers out there, and then start kind of honing in on, and again, maybe all of a sudden Maverick Bourque steps up and somehow he pops up into the top 6 and does what everybody's expecting him and hoping him to do. So I think you're just trying to, let's not panic here. Let's just kind of move down the road. Let's see where we're at. Let's see what we have. And, you talk about a couple young guys that were, in the minors last year, and add a couple pieces here and there. Let's see what kind of group we have. But I'm still interested, in all the guys that you asked the question to, right? About where do you see this Dallas Stars team? And I don't see anybody jump right out there. Oh yeah, they're gonna be in the conference finals next year. I think there's a little hesitation. Also, there's a couple guys that did, they're a top 4, top 5 team, but I think we're all kind of in that same neighborhood right now.
Do you think part of that is what Brendan was talking about earlier, because of the difficulty within the division, right? I mean, they beat Colorado in 7 games in the first round, and a lot of people said, wow, Colorado could have gone to the conference final, right? With the offense they have, with Makar, McKinnon, those kind of guys, Landeskog coming back. Mackenzie Blackwood gave him a decent run. I don't think he was maybe the best against the Stars, but they felt like they were a much better team than out in the first round. And that's the problem, right? Is that you're facing a Colorado, Winnipeg gauntlet, and Dallas is part of that sort of triumvirate of teams that whoever wants to make it out of the Central to get to the third round is going to have to go through 2 of those.
Yeah, again, for me, I just think a lot of that was Jake. I really do. I don't know if that was it. And again, are we a better team if Mason Marchment is still here on that line than we are today?
Regular season, absolutely. I don't know about in the playoffs, right? Because I don't know if Marchment, Duchesne, and Sagan were as good in the playoffs.
Well, man, you could say that about a bunch of guys.
Yes,
for sure.
Fair.
I
think the addition of Bastian is maybe trying to fill a little bit of the physicality that Marchment can bring, but he's certainly not going to fill that spot on that line, and you're not going to do that, right? No. But this is all going back to Mikko Rantanen and Wyatt Johnston getting a big contract and Jake Ottinger getting a big deal, is now we just don't have enough money to go around to get the guy, Luds, that you're talking about. The reason why they probably didn't pull a trigger yet on a second line left wing is there's no money in the salary cap for it right now.
Well, and everybody else knows that Dallas is looking for that guy. So that just elevates the price, should they come knocking on the door. Now it's, are they going to be willing to? I mean, is that why they're – I don't even think they're trying to get rid of Jason Robertson, but are they just kind of throwing it out there? Let's see what somebody would give us for that. Is there a way that we could improve our team by bringing in, two players, maybe even 3 players, for Jason Robertson? I don't know. And I don't think they want to get rid of Robo. And we've heard every single team go, man, we'll take Robertson. And again, they may get Robo and go, oh, okay, well, we didn't know this about him, but that's okay. He still can get us 30, 35 goals a year, maybe more, especially if he's, stays healthy and, he's got the right 2 guys to play with.
What did you see, that's the thing that I think is crazy, and we've gone over the Robo stuff a lot, but maybe Leds is right. You can get a couple of players for a big guy, but I would think that the subtraction of a top line left wing to try to fill a second line left wing spot is counterproductive.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're doing that other than, is there something where you just get an offer you can't refuse?
Yeah, they're giving us a top defenseman.
Yeah, I mean,
something that the team is like desperately missing.
If you could make something that made it all work, I would guess you always entertain that because that's your job as a GM is to listen. But that doesn't mean you want to get rid of him, and I don't think they do.
You can't trade goals.
Right.
And I know you said it a bunch. He's a natural goal scorer. They are not
literally the point of the game is to score goals.
Common anymore. And if Robertson, this conversation wouldn't even been happening if he could be what he was in the Western Conference Final for 2 more rounds, right? Robertson was on fire.
Right. If he hadn't gotten hurt at the end of the regular season, we might be talking about a totally different run.
So that's what I'm really interested to see is what type of player is he in the playoffs when he's healthy for this team and he's not trying to either recover from an injury or take on the goals that aren't coming from 7 or 8 guys, as Led just said, that's going on in the roster, because this playoff was just there's a long word that I'm trying to think of that I don't know the word, but I'm not even going to try to use it. But if you look at this playoffs, Lud says it. Ottinger carried them through 2 rounds, Ottinger and Rantanen. Then they couldn't score enough to beat Edmonton. What is this team when their guys are actually playing up to their level that they can play? What is this team when Wyatt Johnston is back on his, I think he had like 16 points in 19 games the year before, or when
second half
Tyler
of the regular season, Wyatt was great. It was
fire.
just the playoffs that he didn't.
It's just an interesting, no one knows what this team looks like when they're actually able to put it all together. They haven't been able to do that consistently in the playoffs yet. It's been 1 or 2 guys carrying them, and I'm just really curious to see what this team can do against Edmonton or Colorado with all or most of their things firing.
Well, and Luds, we go back to the Gully conversation about making some adjustments and doing it so that game 83 isn't a switch. It's the end of a long progression, right? And you can't play playoff hockey the same way. But Sam and I were having the conversation the other day, like you can't prep for playoffs in the regular season perfectly because there's no circumstance where you play the same team between 4 and 7 times in a row where you have to deal with those adjustments. And Gully was talking about it on, I think it was our interview or maybe the one he did with Sean about changing the way you play because, okay, we're going to face LA, so we're going to do this on the forecheck. And those are small examples, but it's not, we're playing the same team and they're going to take our number one thing away by doing this. So how are we going to adjust 2 or 3 different moves away? That's hard to do in the regular season, isn't it?
Yeah, but what you're trying to do is, as far as Gully is and what I talk about, is you're going to play your playoff style all year long. And yeah, there's going to be little tweaks. And it's not about what they do to us. It's how we're going to play and what we're going to ultimately force them into doing the way that we play the game. So I think that's what Gully wants to do. I think he wants to play. I do believe that he wants to play 82 games. And yeah, well, there are other little tiny tweaks here and there, but the most part is whoever you are in the regular season, that's who we're going to be in the playoffs. And hopefully when you go from game 10 to game 40 to game 60 to 65, you keep getting better at the game that you're playing, and you end up pushing the other team's best players to the perimeter out of the game. And so now all of a sudden you're like, it doesn't matter who we play. The style that we're playing gives us a chance, especially with a goaltender that we have when he doesn't have to face, a ton of quality chances a game. And we know that he can stop shots from certain areas, and we just feel more comfortable about him only giving up 2 goals a game, and that's where we're at. And we feel that we can score 3 or 4, even though we don't have those other guys, or maybe they will. But I keep an eye on Nashville. I just think that if Nashville gets off to another poor start, I think Trotz is kind of extended, hey, we're going to let you guys roll this back again. This is on me. I made too many changes, maybe that. I think Trotz have taken the bullet for that. Is going to give the head coach another opportunity. And I think if they get off to a poor start, they may be a couple of those big guns that they brought in that might be available and say, well, listen, let's change this because whatever I put together, it doesn't taste good. Whatever ingredients I put in here, it doesn't taste good. So I'm not saying Stamkos or Forsberg, whoever that may be, that maybe this is what we got to do to shake it. And that's the reason I think that Jim Nill and those guys are kind of waiting to see what happens with a couple other teams. Maybe there's going to be somebody in Vegas. I don't know. Maybe there's a team that expected to be in the Final Four, Final 8, whatever, but all of a sudden they're not going to make it. They want to get rid of a guy or two. So we'll see.
All right. Well, we could keep going, but we're almost out of time. Let's, on a final thought, though. Last year at times you talked about Steele, as great of a player he is, not very big. Maverick Bourque, not very big. Logan Stankoven, not very big. Colin Blackwell, not very big. Now, all of a sudden, you've got, of course, you have Oscar Beck, you have Jamie Benn, but now in your bottom 6, you've got Radek Faksa, you've got Nathan Bastian. You've got some size and guys that can get around the ice. Does that help?
I think size helps, but I don't look at Radek being I don't look at him as being, man, he's a hard guy to play physically. Positionally, yes. On the faceoffs, yes. Positionally, yes, which is all great. But I think when you talk about Nathan coming in, that's the kind of pieces you want to add to what you're trying to do. That's what I think. I mean, again, I don't know. Again, I don't know if Gully, they have to, hopefully they're on the same page, right? I always worry about that. The way that Jim Nill puts his team together maybe isn't the way that Gully, the pieces. And again, I think Pete DeBoer wanted to have a couple more bigger pieces in there. I mean, he'd come out and say it publicly. So, but that to me, that's why you interview people, right? I mean, for me, I'm like, well, if I'm going to interview for a coaching job and Jim says to me, goes, hey, well, what kind of style do you want to play? Well, I'm like, what players are you going to get me? Because I'll tell you the kind of style I want to play, but I need the players to fit into the style and the system that I'm going to play. So that's where I think the conversation between those guys, and I know that they go into depth and that kind of stuff. And so obviously they're on the same page, because otherwise, Jim had a few options, I'm assuming, but he decided to go with Gully, and there's probably good things that he heard from him. So, and I think Gully, because he played or I should say coached, some really, really good players, obviously, he understands that he can change a couple things up. There's some similarities probably in his mind between, players in Edmonton, what he's got here in Dallas now, and the style and the system. I mean, again, Edmonton frustrated Dallas because they couldn't get to the front of the net. And I just believe that that's going to be part of what he wants to change a little bit, because on the other side of the coin, he's like, man, we got to the front of the net. I mean, there were a lot of things on the perimeter. They played this way. We got quality scoring chances. Now I see it from that perspective. That's not gonna happen to us this year. So whatever he tweaks, I'm hoping that's what happens.
There you have it. Big stuff from Luds. Sam, Elijah, I'm Owen. A huge thank you to Brendan Burke joining us on our Islander show tomorrow. It's a 2:00 show. We will be joined by the Anaheim Ducks stream host Alexis Downey, and then the Ducks radio play-by-play announcer Steve Carroll. So it's a Ducks day tomorrow, and we'll get all of Luds' takes about his buddy Pat Verbeek's job as GM tomorrow right here on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.